Okay, Erika or someone, if you can still give me feedback that all is well.
All is well. We can see your screen now.
But not the notes, is it?
No notes. Looks good.
Okay, thanks a lot. So, warm welcome, dear colleagues and friends, to our next LIVIND webinar. And this is now already it's third of the themes of sustainability, but fourth LIVIND webinar on the row. And this time our topic will be social sustainability. Well-being and intergenerational dialogue is the title for our event today. We have an interesting afternoon ahead of us, many kind of presentations coming up. I will be your host today, and Elisa Kraatari, our project coordinator, says hi to everyone. She has fallen ill, so I'll be running the show today, but I have Erika, our trainee, to help us, and other colleagues as well. So I hope you enjoy the ride. We start now. Just quickly, I'm going to show you the program to remind you what's ahead of us. So after my short opening, we will have Pauliina Latvala-Harvilahti to talk about the sustainable future. I will give a brief note on that, and then we will go into case examples of social sustainability. And this time our examples come from Estonia, from the University of Tartu, Ave Matsin. Then we will hear an example on the dance field and well-being by Erlien Myrvold from the Norwegian Centre for Traditional Music and Dance. And then we will have Constanze Ackermann-Boström from the Umeå University to tell us more about the safeguarding and digitization of meänkieli, language community. After the coffee break, we will again go to small groups so that you all can share your thoughts around today's themes, and we will also have a Padlet. Great news from our part. So since the last time we met, LIVIND project gained new funding from the Finnish Ministry for Foreign Affairs. And so with this money, it is possible for us to prolong our project from May 2023 to May 2024. And with this money, we have especially the possibility to fund more pilot projects taking place in all of the Northern Dimension partner countries, so the Nordic, the Baltic, and Poland. And we are, I should have Elisa now here with me, but we have almost 20 partners now. And a new partner now is the Nordic Baltic ICH network, so also a stronger connection to the grassroots and NGO field. Just about our ways of working for those of you who are here for the first time to hear what LIVIND is about. Please note also the next date for our last webinar session on the 4 themes. So cultural sustainability will take place on the afternoon of 14th November. So you can also put this date down. So maybe just a couple of words about today's theme. So I will leave it to Pauliina to tell you more a bit on the bigger framework. But for me, I think it's been really interesting to think about what's the role of living heritage in the society. What is it that makes communities communities? And also this webinars has been planned in cooperation, this project team, all of our partnering countries, and some of the themes we came up with was social coherence and the meaning of living heritage to that, and also well-being and health. And it will be very interesting for us on the project team side to hear on these examples. But I'm sure we will also touch upon the theme of cultural diversity, so that there are different kind of practices and different kind of groups around our countries, and and the traditions related to them. How do these relate to our work as professionals working with living heritage? So today we have a wonderful community, people coming from the education sector, practitioners of living heritage, NGOs, museums, and researchers. So let's see how it goes when we take the program further from here. But before I give the floor to Pauliina, I have another interesting piece of information, and those of you who know me from before and the work of Finnish Heritage Agency around intangible cultural heritage knows that we are friends of tools. So back in 2017, we created the wheel chart of sustainability, and believe it or not, we have now a new tool in our toolbox. So we are now ready to launch the spinner of living heritage, which is obviously an offspring for our wheel chart. But now with this tool, we are focusing especially into children and youth. And we created this tool together with the Association of Cultural Heritage Education Society in Finland and a working group of teachers and educators. And it is a similar kind of a tool, or the working method is similar than what we had with the wheel chart. It's possible to be downloaded for free and cut it out and put a, what was it called, the little thingy in here, and to be used in classrooms or hobby groups or wherever, or even at home with your own kids to discuss what is living heritage. It's now available in Finnish, Swedish, and English, but let us know if you would be interested in translating it to your own language so we can help out with the graphics, and we would be more than happy to see it spreading around the world. We would still like to show you just a 1 or 2 minute video of how it works. Give me just a second so I'll have the right page, and I will still include my sound.
Annikki, I'm going to use this spinner of living heritage at school. So could you maybe test how this works with me?
Okay.
So how it works is that you first choose a heritage that's important to you. And for me, that could be, for example, going to the cottage.
Yes.
And your little sister, that could be...
Swimming.
Yeah. And what could it be for you? What would you choose?
Hobby horsing.
So let's talk about hobby horsing then. And there's no right or wrong answers in this. Now we can talk about hobby horses, and we'll talk about it by going through these titles. So we have culture, economy, environment, learning, and interaction. So let's start with learning. And how did you learn this heritage?
Well, I get my first hobby horse when I was 6, and when I was 8, I was interested in horses, and then I started to really do hobby horsing.
So have you taught this heritage to somebody else?
Yes, I taught my little sister and my friends.
How did you teach this to your friends?
I just showed them what to do, and they are then copied.
Now let's spin this to culture. Who practices this heritage?
Well, kids and teenagers and people who like horses.
Do adults practice it?
Yes, they can practice it.
How do adults practice it?
My auntie made this horse, and my granddad made me a stable.
Would you actually like to show me how you practice this heritage?
Okay.
The purpose of this tool is to make cultural heritage approachable and understandable for children and young people. In this video, the heritage spinner was a dialogue tool used to stimulate a conversation between an adult and a child about cultural heritage. but it can be used in many ways, independently, in pairs or small groups, or for written answers. We hope that you find it a fun and useful tool.
Okay. All right, Ira Virhelehto, maybe you can say quick hello or wave your hand if you're with us. So warm thank you to your association in creating this tool. So I hope you enjoyed. We are so proud of both the tool and the video. It does look great.
Same. I was seeing it the second time, and I'm always so kind of worried if how is Annikki doing with her English, because she was worried. But her father is English speaking, and she's a Finnish child, and she did great job.
Okay, thanks a lot, Ira, for you and the whole team. Pauliina, may I ask you now to step in and start your presentation, and please start by introducing yourself. I will leave it to you. So.
Thank you, Leena. So I will now try to share my slides. Good afternoon to everybody. My name is Pauliina Latvala-Harvilahti. I'm an adjunct professor of heritage studies and working in the University of Eastern Finland currently. Just a second. I will try to. Can you see the
Yes.
slide? Perfect.
Now it's good.
And at least now it's so fine to me. So dear colleagues, students and LIVIND network and organizers, thank you for the invitation to give a paper at this webinar. This August in Helsinki, the Night of the Arts event was celebrated in many locations. One free artwork that drew my attention was entitled Comrades Against Extinction. In this cover slide, you'll see a collective musical procession standing in front of the tower that was built at the square. The tower consisted of images of extinct animals facing the Parliament building of Helsinki. Volunteers using diverse languages carried signs to pay attention to the extinction of species. For the artists of the project, these animals were non-human comrades, martyrs of the climate catastrophe, and part of our struggle for living worlds for all. For me, standing in the audience, the procession provoked emotions and shook up ideas about how we both are part of nature and how coming all together there builds up hope and resilience. Although the sadness of losing species cannot be avoided either. This example presents a form of environmental activism. In this case, willingness to take a stand for nature with other volunteers. Connecting art and activism, it is also used artivism concept. People are worried, but they act together. The empowerment of individuals to be active agents of change, both at the individual and collective levels, is emphasized in the latest inclusive research on quality of life and promotion of health and well-being. In PROMEC study funded by the Government of Finland, here I'm referring to a new article of Research Director from the Department of Social Sciences at the University of Eastern Finland, Tomi Mäki-Opas, with his colleagues. I try to change the slide. The social was integrated quite late into debates on sustainable development. The same can be said about culture and cultural sustainability too. Social sustainability means many things, like equally shared resources, fostering the intergenerational links, supporting tolerance, reducing poverty, providing food and health care, supporting equity, which gives rise to respect for multiculturalism and human rights, strengthening gender equality and tackling inequalities, and finally, the management of education and lifelong learning. The common goal of social and cultural sustainability is seen as the transmission of the means of well-being and development from one generation to the next. Due to Agenda 2030, the debate on the need for and production of sustainable society takes place. However, the achievement of ecological sustainability is the most crucial, as it enables the other dimensions of sustainable development to be implemented. Sustainability problems are a complex web of many overlapping problems and challenges. According to the Finland's expert panel for sustainable development's publication entitled A Positive Future for Finland, which was published this year, sustainable lifestyle is possible to achieve together. The panel supports challenges and assesses the realization of the sustainable development policy in Finland and produces content for topical policy processes. The panel has prepared recommendations for the national government regarding the steering of various actors also in the sustainability transformation. Steering communities and civic organizations include unwavering respect for human rights in order to secure free domestic and international civic activities. In Finland, proposal for the cultural heritage strategy entitled Cultural Heritage as a Resource for a Sustainable Future and Good Life is being finalized. I would like to mention that among the target themes, there are cultural heritage as part of ecological sustainability. Although we are talking about social sustainability, the importance of cultural heritage in strengthening resilience has been recognized too, especially in the context of an emotional crisis resilience, but also for general well-being. Furthermore, a welcome develop is that sustainable tourism will be promoted. To ensure that the individual is part of the community and society, it is essential to connect social sustainability and mindset of its actions towards reaching out for people as heritage community. As Faro Convention of the Council of Europe states, heritage communities consists of people who value specific aspects of heritage, which they wish within the framework of public action to sustain and transmit to future generations. This convention establishes the connection between social heritage and its social value, understanding the role of communities as they give life to heritage. The principles are the right of everyone to heritage, shared responsibility for their own and common heritage, and its sustainable use for the benefits of society, development, and good life. Sustainable communities, how to strengthen resilience. Sustainable communities may be educated and resilience supported in many ways. Art has endless possibilities to engage communities. In this slide, you can see artist Kaisa Salmi standing at the top of her plastic Baroque dress made of recycled plastic by 1,000 volunteers, actually school children. Artist was sermonizing on environmental issue for a total of 10 hours there. This artwork is called Plastic Mama. This artwork contains around 300 kilos of household recycled waste and industrial surplus plastic. This artwork has been ordered by the Prime Minister's office. If anything, this will wake up us to the need to change our lifestyles. The way out of the contemporary global crisis scenario is to replace the dominant efficiency paradigm with a resilience paradigm. I quote here to Halme and colleagues, 2021. Resilience can be strengthened by supporting the agency and diversity of human capabilities, sustaining cultural practices connected to identities, raising awareness about ecological problems connected to remediating practices, as well as fostering global belonging and ecological citizenship. This concept, ecological citizenship, is a type of citizenship that encourages individuals, communities, and organizations as citizens of the world to consider environmental rights and responsibilities. Resilience has been defined also as a symbiosis of human and natural systems that can support one another to survive and transform through natural and man-made shocks. Also referring to Halme. When talking about resilience or flexibility to change, there should be more discussion, not only about the resilience of individuals and communities, but also organizations. How is it articulated in strategies and how it is translated into action? Does it reflect reality, for example, the multicultural nature of communities? And if so, is everyone committed to questions and issues of ethical sustainability? For example, to avoid inequality and discrimination, it is socially sustainable to develop and provide multicultural elements for common communities and individuals that help children to build their identity for the future. It is important that we talk about culturally diverse living heritage as individuals and communities change heritage practices. A strong relationship with the home region is an asset that grows into local networks. Social sustainability was highlighted in the statement of the central organizing body for the local heritage work, Finnish Local Heritage Federation, in their annual National Local Heritage Conference. At the heart of social sustainability is a meaningful life. Transnational and local networks can work together for a sustainable future. Everyday climate activism and futures. Let's take an example of heritage community from Norway, Bergen. Researcher Lone Re Milker has studied how ideas of a sustainable society may be practiced in society. Sustainable Lives Landlaws is a movement which aims to bring notions of sustainability into an everyday life settings. Milker points out that everyday climate activism is a part of local middle-class community building, meaningful to people. It has taken shape through downscaling the climate activist movement, situating it as a local concern. Climate change becomes relatable in everyday life through social practices like neighborhood festivals, with, for example, selling local honey. The festivals have the power to connect like-minded people and hopefully others too. Talking about social sustainability and agency raises questions about who perceives sustainability actions as meaningful and personally important, and why. How could we broaden venues to people to meet and experience the power of active agency, whether it is called activism, artivism, or something else, perhaps just caring for the future generations. Art and living heritage may increase understanding and strengthen imagination about possible futures. Let me next take an example from the current research that is part of the Maya Trend research project in the University of Eastern Finland, led by adjunct professor Kirsi Laureen. Due to COVID-19 pandemic, there has been an increase in nature tourism and outdoor activities in Mayas. Actually, they include to the top travel destinations and have like over 30,000 visitors yearly in some Mayas. The Mayas are changing culturally and used by individuals and communities to highlight new aspects in the eco-crisis. The shared use of Mayas includes various modes of open and free art events and performances. Maya art provides meaningful community-based experience of nature in the first hand that can support people's well-being and understanding of the value of ecosystem. Art also mediates the relation between the future, society, and environment by participating in public discussion on public global protection and environmental values of Mayas. By giving Mayas their own value and removing them from the category of marginal or negative landscapes, the meanings of place and human-nature relationships are transformed. Mayas have their defenders, individuals who are partly organized in movements in social media, like the guardians of Torronsuo Maya in South Finland. Torronsuo Maya is the deepest Maya in Finland. For the creation of a sustainable future, there is an active process of renewing the classic educational concept of Bildung. I earlier referred to the publication of the expert panel for sustainable development. This A Positive Future for Finland publication uses the term eco-social Bildung. There, sustainability transformation offers a wide range of tasks, and I quote, "The participation of all actors of society in various roles is needed in business, the financial system, the media sector, municipalities, education and research, communities and associations, and also as individuals." For example, Sitra, an active fund for the future in Finland, has Bildung Plus projects that aimed to renew knowledge, skills, values, and ideas throughout society and across sectors in order to replace consumerism with well-being. And the last slide is not that. I still actually would like to go to the earlier one, and it does not go there. Sorry, but I will shortly continue. The Dynamo project, Dynamic Museum and Heritage Futures Workshop project as instrument for ecological reconstruction was one of the Bildung Plus projects in Finland. Led from the Finland Futures Research Centre, it aimed to broaden and deepen eco-social values by strengthening co-creative understanding of cultural transformation. The project provided a future-oriented thinking to museums work to reconceptualizing museums as arenas for societal and participatory interaction that produces deliberative cultural and societal change. In this project, we argued that the active societal role of museums creates connections to various stakeholders, actors, and communities. With some pilot museums, like the Museum of Technology and the Museum of Agriculture, the project aimed to engage with people from a range of experiences and backgrounds. Workshops acted as a tool for so-called heritage futures. This concept is defined in Finland by Katriina Siivonen and differs from meaning that is internationally known in the UK. A form of cultural heritage that consists of the skills and practices created and made meaningful by people together, through which culture can be transformed to adapt to the limits of nature's carrying capacity. To conclude, in line with my title, Sustainable Future, Agency, Co-creation and Wellbeing, I wish to open the debate on the need to broaden the collaboration between various stakeholders in the field of cultural, social, and health sector and multidisciplinary research. This is particularly worrying as latest research results show that vulnerable groups feel that their opportunities to promote their health and well-being are limited, referring to Mäki-opas again. Alongside and overlapping with the welfare efforts of arts and culture, it would be important to articulate more clearly the role of living cultural heritage. Sustainable heritage is still not sufficiently exploited in the social and health sector. In concrete co-creative work in institutions like reception centers, etc. I believe that socially sustainable heritage work should also be reflected in public campaigns, like the very successful campaign of the Finnish League for Human Rights that was entitled Don't Break the Game, and which boldly highlighted human rights issues in sport in Finland. This campaign appeared in the news and in tram banners and ads. The debate on the social aspects of sustainability and new opportunities should be continued in several arenas. Thank you very much for your time.
Leena, sulla ei ole mikki päällä.
Thank you, Pauliina, for your presentation. It was very interesting and thought-provoking and provided exactly what we hoped for from you. So interesting examples from the field, so both from the strategical and then what's happening on the ground. And we are a bit over time now, but I'll just give some thoughts that came to my mind when we were talking. So first of all, to the role of living heritage and the role of activism, artivism, or craftivism, which is really one of my favorite forms of activism happening on the ground. So what is it in practice that people already now do or could do better? So I think our role as professionals, or also our role in this project, LIVIND project, is to bring up these. I really agree on that. We need to work on all frontiers. So you brought up the process of the cultural heritage strategy that has now been published, opened for comments. So really that we need to have the conventions, the UNESCO, the Council of Europe, we need to have that support. But then on the state levels or in the regional levels, we need the strategies to bring up the role of what are we doing with sustainability. And I think why we also chose to go this path for the 4 dimensions of sustainability, that so many good things are happening on the ground already, but we are not sort of noticing that, oh, actually, I mean, I bet some of you came to the event today, like, I want to go in and see more of what it is about. And you will leave this event like, oh, I knew that already. And we have actually been doing with that already, but I didn't think that it is social sustainability. Then you also spoke about resilience. So I think that's also definitely one thing that we have been thinking a lot during the last 2 years, and the role that living heritage has had in all of our lives personally. So how it came up with the knitting boom, or making traditional foods, or then also what happened to our festivities, how we would do our Eastern whisking when we could not go anymore out to the neighbors to do our tradition, but then we made it up that we can do it by cell phone or so on. How is it articulated in strategies and translated to practice? So I totally agree with you on that one. What else? Active process of making the future. I've been following your projects, for example, the Dynamo project already before, and I really like this idea, and I also tend to think this is what we're doing with LIVIND as well, that we should not just settle for saying that, oh, it looks so bad, and oh, I wonder where the world is going, but we need to be the agents who are actually building on the future. So whether we are working with nature-related tourism or dance or crafts or teaching the kids about heritage, we are the ones who need to have a vision about how should the world like look in 20 or 40 or 60 years, and we need to make those concrete paths towards it. So, but there is definitely potential that we haven't yet filled it. So maybe this is from me, Pauliina, but heartfelt thanks to your excellent presentation, and I hope you all got food for thought in a bit more general level. Thank you, Pauliina.
Thank you so much.
We will now go forward in the program. So if this was now more of the academic wide perspective to social sustainability, we will now go into 3 different case studies. And first, I would like to ask Ave Matsin from University of Tartu. So she has the topic of higher education on heritage crafts and its contribution to craft communities in Estonia.
Yes,
so
thank you. I will try to share my screen. Yes, do you see the slides nicely?
Yes, thank you.
And do they?
They look pretty.
And
Go ahead.
they move also. Do
They
move
move.
also? Yes, good. So thank you very much for inviting me here. And I'm presenting University of Tartu Viljandi Culture Academy. And so Viljandi, very shortly about where we are situating, and then about our craft study programs, and then about what we are doing together with communities. So Viljandi Culture Academy is part of our oldest and biggest university, academical university in Estonia. It's Tartu University. And we are one of the 3 regional colleges, and we are mainly focusing on different culture areas. So we have a department for music, performing arts, cultural management, and also community education. But one of our department is mainly focusing on traditional craft. And this is quite special because if we think about craft as usual, then of course craft means, first of all, very many different things in different cultures and different languages. But we are here talking mainly about heritage crafts. And we have had craft education almost 30 years now, and we have focusing on different craft specialities. The oldest one is textile, but the other are construction and metalwork. So we somehow try to cover in our Estonian Native Crafts bachelor level program the most common Estonian craft techniques, materials, and areas. So this is very important to us, that all things what we are doing is connected with heritage craft. And then we have also creative MA program called Creative Applications of Cultural Heritage, and there is two different specialities. One is traditional craft, and the second is traditional music. And we have also some other study programs connected with craft. One of them is Teacher of Arts and Technology, where is a special part for handicrafts and home economics, and Teacher of Technology. And then we have also an English program taught together with folklorists in Tartu University, and it's called Folkloristics and Applied Heritage Studies. But and in our craft curricula, there is around 160 students who are studying both MA and BA level, and a bit more than 20 teachers. And I think that we try somehow, or we have a kind of mission to follow. So we really want to make traditional heritage craft more visible, more practiced, and for that we are trying somehow to build a bridge between the past and between the future. So very important part of our study programs is really practicing the things and practicing the techniques. So some of our earlier students have said that you can't keep folk sing or traditional music alive if you just listen. You need to practice it, and it's the same with craft. It's very hard to keep it alive when you just look at it. You need to practice it. And if we talk about our activities, then we try to cover the whole ecosystem around the craft. So this is not just education, but we try to be very active in different development programs, research projects, and of course try to work a lot with communities. Yes, so, and we have a quite big part, or we try to focus also quite much towards research. So we have our own interdisciplinary peer-reviewed annual journal for craft studies, and we try to keep publishing the work what students has done as part of their study work. But coming back to communities, then first of all, I think that our curriculums and all our students and teachers, we are a community ourselves, because we really try to keep all who have studied here earlier and who is studying now, to keep to support that they are doing cooperation with each other. But of course, they are doing a great work also with other communities. And one thing before I will go on with this communities is that that I would like to point out very very shortly that this conflict between folk art and professional craft education, what we somehow have written in to our programs. So somehow we are working with folk art, which in Estonian tradition means homemade things for your family and for your nearest people. So we are trying to study this and to develop it for professional living. But yeah, this is just for me, it's very interesting discussion point, but not for this this seminar here. But now I will give some examples how this professional our alumni who has been who are professional craft teachers and educators and researchers now, how they have influenced the different craft communities in Estonia. And one of this where I see that our part is quite big is folk costume schools movement. And initially it's coordinated by Estonian Folk Culture Centre, Estonian Folk Art and Craft Union, and Estonian National Museum. But since we developed a special like module for folk costume makers and researchers, then due to that, very many of our students has researched folk costumes, and after graduation, they have started to work with those folk costume schools as a teacher or leaders. So generally, it's called school, then it's open for all people who are interested in making folk costumes, and it's really a very growing trend in Estonia that people want to know about this more, and they want to do the costumes to their family themselves. And this is and it comes very often from grassroots level that people are starting the school. And then they find someone who can teach them and try to find money for different programs. And to the end of this school, the people need to make presentation of the finished costumes together with research. And here is just some of our students who has made their Kersti Loite, who made her MA work about costumes from Virumaa, from eastern part of Estonia. So she has also started her own folk costume school, and they just were ready with first 2 years course, and now they will start a new one. And Inna Raud, who is also worked very much with western part Estonia, costumes from western part of Estonia. She has also, here is some parts of her work from her MA work. But she also is leading now another folk costume school here in Viljandi, and they are working with those costumes which are coming from around this area here, and they are now ready with first year. And then third example is Mareli Rannap, who comes from our biggest island, from Saaremaa. Already before she came here, she already was very active in local community, and they already had some first courses about making folk costumes. But then she came here and she studied more about how to do regional advisory board of national costumes. So like a local national costume center. And she really made this center, and now they are also arranging a lot of courses and different activities for those local crafters who are interested in doing in working with folk costumes. Then another example, which is not so very closely connected with us, but still there is our previous alumni, or Anu Pink, who is working in a publishing house, and she has started a Knitters replica club. And this is really like over Estonian club for those mainly women who are interested in very, very specific old time knitting. And here is a picture about their work. They made a huge pile of replicas out of Viljandi County's gloves and mittens, and they wanted to sell all those replicas to support, to make a local folk culture center at for Anu Raud, who is a textile artist who is also working very much with folk art. But the Anu Raud was so keen with all those mittens and gloves, so they didn't sell them. But now it's going around as an exhibition, and all who want can give money without buying those mittens and gloves. And the other exhibition or other project, what they made was world's largest exhibition of Muhu socks. So this is a picture from the exhibition, which was in Estonian National Museum, and you can see the amazing craft what the women who is taking part of this club is doing. And then shortly about makerspaces. So you know probably all that makerspaces is a new place for coming for people who want to do something with their own hands. And we have started like this is our way of thinking of makerspaces is of course repairing and mending. So here is we have students who have started their own open workshop and information center for those people who want to repair their own things by themselves. And then the last example is we just had a week ago Viljandi Mending Festival. So and it was open for the whole community, and the aim of the festival was to show to people that mending is a very good thing, and all should try to mend things much more than until now. And of course, the bigger reason for that is that there should be less things and materials in a circulation because of this ecological crisis we are inside right now. So, and we also develop a new speciality called circular technology, which should help people and communities, of course, to focus reducing the amount of materials, and also mending and all this upcycling, downcycling, and all those other things. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ave. Lovely presentation. I have to confess, I'm an eager craft person myself, and I thought you really nicely brought both information from Estonia, how your system is built and in what way people are learning. But I mean, usually we tend to think that, oh, it's just me knitting alone and doing my thing. But thank you for making it visible that there are communities. So whether is it coming from one generation to another one, then how people are joining together in festivals or craft events, but then also online. I mean, I'm personally so fascinated about Pinterest communities. I mean, if you do have a special technique and you used to be the only one in your area doing it, now you can have your colleagues all over the world doing the same thing, and you can have a community and be connected online. Okay, thanks a lot, Ave. And then we go forward. If you, Ave, stop sharing, and then we will get...
Haven't I stopped?
We will go to Norway then, and we will have Tone Erlien Myrvold from the Norwegian Centre for Traditional Music and Dance to tell about living heritage of dance and well-being.
Yes, do you see? Hello, everyone. Can you see now?
Now it looks very nice. Thank you. Go ahead.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tone from Trondheim, Norway. I'm very happy to be here today. I'll talk to you a bit about dancing, and dancing as in social dancing and not as in performative dancing. So I will not be talking about ballet, contemporary, modern, jazz. Those traditions and those genres will not be mentioned today. So I work at the Norwegian Centre for Traditional Music and Dance in Norway. We are a national NGO for folk music and folk dance as ICH, Intangible Cultural Heritage. Today I will talk about, as I said, traditional dancing and the transmission of traditional dance in Norway. It's about traditional dance and popular dance as a form of socialization, which has the ideal process of learning to dance is in an informal way, explained as a non-reflective, long, intuitive learning by copying a large number of dance masters. And you should experience dance enjoyment and commitment as the main #1 goal. So what is social dance in museums? Today you will learn a bit more about our project Museene Danser, which I'll come back to. But our questions going into that topic is, how can a change of focus towards the aesthetics and social aspects of traditional dance add positive changes to museums as a meeting place today? That means that natural aspects like learning, participation, and improvisation should be a part of this change. And how can new methods of museum curation help to transmit and promote the participatory aspects of social dances? So this was the entrance for Museene Danser. We, through participation and involvement by local dance groups in the transmission of the embodied dance knowledge, and also contribution from the audience, Museene Danser explores new methods for dissemination of the socialization factor in dance as ICH in museums. I know this is many commas, but you'll get into it. In 15 minutes now, you'll understand maybe. I've looked
Sorry, I will still ask Ave to close your camera. Sure, sorry, Tone, go ahead.
Thank you. No problem. Nina Simone, the museum director and the writer of the book Participatory Museum, she calls for museums that are used for social bridging in order to build stronger communities. And the UNESCO Convention, it could work as a potential recommendation to increase democratic processes in participation methods in museums. Also, I'm inspired by a term, occupation of duration, by Ines Moreno in a book from 2014. She's a dance artist, but she says something quite clever, I think. The connection between a dance institution's structural lines and codes and the logic of an exhibition, and how this together can make up a whole new contemporary curatorial activity. The idea of occupation of duration as a process will augment the traditional way an exhibition is made part of the museum, spatial frame, and it could appear as a recurrent motive in artistic and curatorial approaches. So the mix here between a dance institution, this longer structural lines, and also the exhibition area can just be mixed together, and then the exhibition becomes a potential space for social exchange. And I'll get back to some examples. Me and my professor emeritus, Egil Bakka, maybe some of you know him, we have tried to discuss a new term, events of practice, because the performance usually split the people present in performers and audience. And the usual aim is that the performers are to entertain the audience. But the core model of traditional social dance does not include a performer-audience split. There may be onlookers, but dancing does not happen for them to see. The dancers dance for their own pleasure. So keep that in mind for the rest here now. The ideal is that ICH could be represented inside the museum walls, not only through exhibitions and performances, but also events of practice. So this is also a mix. So what we did was to invite dance groups in Trondheim, and also in the whole of Norway, actually, where my exhibitions has toured. They was invited into this invited space for free, and they had one task, one requirement, and that was to be there, to dance, and to talk to the audience, talk to the visitors coming. And what happened? And did this concept of events of practice work? And what was it? Co-creation or co-production? I'll come back to that. Until now, we have had my topic of museene danser. That was also my topic of my master thesis. We got funding in Norway for 3 exhibitions in Trondheim. That was all about learning, and it started in 2015. Then we put those 3 exhibitions together, and we got funding for a touring exhibition in Norway. That was all about promoting and selling the concept in the whole of Norway. And then we got funding for a Nordic cooperation, and we made a Nordic dance exhibition called Everybody Dance, which now is on its way to Finland and Helsinki, and the Theatre Museum, actually, when we speak. And that was all about teamwork, to get 3 different countries, Finland, Norway, and Sweden, all to cooperate on the same topic and the same perspectives. And along the way, I've got 5 peer-reviewed articles on these topics. And also, I'll come back to that in the end of my presentation. We have got a big funding from the Creative Europe. We got 1 million euros for a 3.5-year project with 9 partners in the EU. Yes. So what have we done in Norway this far? We have a lot of school classes has got an introduction to our exhibitions, and also they have gotten dance teaching. I'll come back to that. And also events of practice have been in 12 museums in Norway. Weekends, summer, and the general public has got a place to talk about dance. And 12 museums and its workers have got to learn about dance as intangible cultural heritage. And also we have created a network with these 12 museums. And also the museums have created networks in their local communities. So the museum has become an actual place for dancing for tourists and for local dance groups, as a place for dialogue, for memories, for realizing dance embodied knowledge. So here are some photos. I won't use much time on these because of GDPR restrictions, but Here you see school classes visiting the Nordic exhibition. Down in the left corner, you see them entering the exhibition, and you also see the dance instruction that they shared. I will come back to that. This is just some pictures from the Nordic exhibition. This is from the very first exhibition in 2016 at Ringve. We created a bar that were about dancing inside and then just being onlookers from the outside. Yes, more pictures here from the inside of the exhibition. And here are from a very special exhibition, number 2 in the row, a community house made into events of practice exhibition, where we had a lot of dance activities and we invited dance groups to come and book this floor for free. This is from the Sami Jubileum, the celebrations in 2017, the 100-year celebrations. They had a dance party of the Samisk Sydisdans, the swing dance, that they practice here, and also school groups here, and also swing dance and a folk dance dance evening. So what is this work and what am I in this project? Because I am the one talking to the museums and also talking to get the museum to talk to the local groups, and also I talk to important dance specialists in each local community that hosts the exhibitions. And I call myself a facilitator or a cultural broker or an expressive specialist. I won't go deeper into that now, but those are terms that I can use for myself, and also what I'm learning the museum workers, which role I'm learning them to take in this work. So sustainability and this work. How can the museum help the dance group continue their practice in a sustainable way? We have co-created exhibitions with the communities. They have been suggesting content, and they have been the content. They have sent in videos, pictures, sentences, knowledge they wanted to share, and they have also been the living heritage through being there as dancers. But the important role is to ask them what you can do, how you can create space for their practice, and also how the content on display can help the dialogue between the visitors and the live dancers, and to facilitate the arena. And also the diversity of different events is very important, to be creative and arrange meetings between the Kurdish group in Norway and the Norwegian group in Norway, and they dance together and they meet through dancing. But also the dance is all about personal and social development and relations. The social sustainability in dance is by participating in it yourself. So it's all about putting down sustainable social community structures through permanent meeting places for cohesion, for all generations and all dance practices in different kinds of museums and for different people. So it is this field you have to know, and to have to get to know your field and your local community and your museums and who is coming. So it's creating in different ways for different people. And also I will talk about the sustainability in this meeting with the school classes in this exhibition. At Rockheim, the last exhibition, now this winter, we had all 10th graders in Trondheim to come. They went into the exhibition, they had a dance class, and they made their own dance hit. So this mix, it all ended in a big dance party where these 3 groups, they met and they danced each other's dances, and they learned it to each other, not by instruction, but just by dancing together. And I've made some thinking and some reflections on what did we do and what was important in this. We used storytelling to make the story of why you should dance relevant for these 10th graders. They are 15 years old. They don't understand exactly why is it so important to dance the waltz. But if you are if you tell it in the correct way, use good stories, if you meet the youths on the right level, I think you do an important job of translating the act of socialization through dance to different generations. And you should always highlight the social function of the heritage and use tools as saying, yes, now you are being present, you hold each other's hands. Don't you smile to each other? Doesn't that make you happy? As simple as that. And it worked. The teachers, they went out with goosebumps and they were touched by the participation level of their youths, and how the youths also responded and answered on questions made me realize that this was very good for them personally. And we also used digital installations as VR glasses, touch screens, films in aim of inclusion, to disseminate a very varied, broad range of social dances. So this method is all about creating a new mental picture of what a museum can do by the use of dance. By dance, the museum can be a place that stimulates plagiarism by encouraging visitors to participate and to copy each other, and making it their own experience by actual dancing. It's a social room for talk, for interpretation, for discussions, not only representation and accumulation, not only being a static viewer. And you as a facilitator, the museum worker or the expressive specialist, you should ask questions, get people to talk, get people to understand that they are experts on their relation to dance and bring back memories and stories. And you should listen to help them find inspiration to talk in the exhibition or in the dance instruction setting. Help them see the lines and help them understand why this is important. Give them a reason to be present in the dance. Even if this 15-year-old kid don't like to dance, really hate to dance, then use arguments that get him to understand the value of dance as a social activity.
Tune, half a minute, please.
Perfect. These are the main topics for this Creative Europe project that is just started. We got 1 million from the EU and then 1.43 million, including self-finance. 9 partners from 6 countries. We are arranging 4 workshops in 2023, which also are open for everyone to participate in. And we will also have some international webinars online. We'll have a ending conference in Slovenia in 3 years, and then a research publication and a toolbox consisting of guidelines and handbook of how to create this events of practice exhibition concept, which we'll test in 5 of 6 countries with case studies and then dissemination periods in museums. And then we will also work on the local government on the topic of sustainable structures, how to get this as permanent solutions. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Tune, and congratulations. It's wonderful news. I've heard about your project for many years since then, and I've had the privilege of working with some of your colleagues, but it's absolutely wonderful. And thank you for bringing your project to this audience. So I'm sure you will have a lot of questions, if not today, then by email from colleagues from different countries. So it's excellent work, and I love it that you got the bigger funding so you can go forward with other partners as well. So thanks a lot, Tune. Okay, let's speed up now and let's go to our last example that comes from Sweden, from Umeå University. So if you did not know yet what is meänkieli, you will most certainly know it after this presentation. So Constanze, please share the screen and your ideas, and great if you can do it in not more than 15 minutes.
In 10 minutes. I try to speak really fast.
It's good.
Can you see my presentation?
Looks great, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm now we're going to move away a bit from crafts and dancing, although they are of course really relevant in the context I'm going to present here as well. But I will talk a bit about meänkieli, a national minority language, and I'll bring you some information on language revitalization and the importance of maintaining and revitalizing cultural and social heritage, and especially language. So, of course, I was asked to talk about social sustainability here, but when it comes to languages, we all know that social and cultural sustainability is, of course, linked. So my idea today was to talk, let's see, now it's not working here. The slides didn't switch, right?
No, not yet.
No,
but you can take it off the
No, maybe.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, great. I had to change the. Okay. So my idea today was to give you a short background on meänkieli, because I'm pretty much sure that only a few of you have heard about meänkieli before. And then I'm going to talk about language policy and sustainability in the Swedish context. And then I'll give you some ideas on my thoughts on linguistic sustainability and meänkieli in the digital space. I am a social linguist. I'm a researcher. I'm not a meänkieli speaker. I understand the language. I have learned it, but I'm not part of the community itself. So I think this is really important to underline here. So I am really thankful and grateful that I am allowed to collaborate in my research with the Tornedalian Kven and Lantalainen community, whose heritage language is meänkieli. Let's see. So meänkieli, I already mentioned it. It's one of 5 national minority languages in Sweden. There are 5 of it. It's all Sami varieties. It's Finnish, it's meänkieli, it's Yiddish, and Romani Chib. So all 5 languages are considered national minority languages, and I will talk a bit about language policy later. So since the year 2000, they are protected by the Swedish state. Meänkieli is spoken historically in the north of Sweden. You see here in this little map, it's a long, I won't go into much into history, you can ask me about this later, but meänkieli is a variety of Finnish originally, and the historical homeland is in the north of Sweden along the shores of 2 rivers that play an important role in the meänkieli speaking community, the Tornio River and the Muonio River. And these rivers build somehow also a border between the meänkieli community on the Swedish side and people speaking Finnish dialects in the northern part of Finland since 1809, when Sweden lost the war and what was known today as Finland became part of Russia. So this is when a community was split into half, and they kind of developed in different ways, one more towards Sweden and one more towards Finland. And the people speaking meänkieli, they identify they use 3 different identity labels. They either are calling themselves Tornedalians. These are the ones who live in the Torne Valley, that is quite, next to the Finnish border. And then there are also the terms Kven and Lantalaiset, who are more living up towards Gällivare, the cities of Gällivare and Kiruna in Sweden. And these 3 terms makes it also a bit difficult to talk about the community, because it would be nice to say like meänkielen community or something like this, but these 3 terms it's important to use them properly, because people calling themselves Lantalainen won't use the term Tornedalian because they live in different parts, but have the same heritage language. And linguistically seen, there are 3 varieties, or you might say dialect, of meänkieli, also corresponding to the 3 terms. Like many indigenous and minoritized communities, the Tornedalian Kväänlantalaised along the Sami and other minorities in Sweden, they were part of assimilation politics from the Swedish state during the late 19th century, where this idea of one nation, one language was heavily impacting the Swedish politics, and all minorities were aimed to be so-called Swedified. We call it a Swedification process. And the main idea was to make them proper Swedes and get rid of their minority languages like meänkieli or Sami. And there were different methods, and we recognize these, of course. This is not a unique case for Sweden. This is a case in many colonial situations around the world. But for the meänkieli speaking community, there were different parts, like meänkieli was forbidden as a language of school instruction, whereas Swedish was the first language used. There was also an economical idea that only schools who used Swedish as a language of instruction were given finances. And there was a lot of violence towards children using meänkieli in the classes or even on the schoolyard. They were beaten, they were
Constance, I think you're muted.
This is really weird. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you now.
Okay,
Something
when
happened.
did I started to become muted?
Well, like 15 seconds ago. No worries.
Okay, this is really weird, and I think my computer has a life of its own. Okay, so I was just talking about this different the different methods of the assimilation politics towards the national minorities. And I was talking about that, for instance, Swedish was introduced as language of instruction in all schools. Schools using meänkieli or Sami didn't get any finances. And there were also a lot of methods, like oppressive methods, like beating children for using the language, putting them in the corner, making fun of them, and so on. There were also something called working houses, where Tornedalian Kväänlantalainen children were taken away from their families, put into these working houses, where they were supposed to learn proper Swedish and also kind of crafting so that they could make a living of their own. And of course, this assimilation politics also had this idea that all toponyms, meaning like place names and even people's names, were Swedified. So all the village names and so on got a Swedish term that was used. And you may maybe also have heard about this idea of eugenics, that there are different hierarchies of races among people. So Swedish scientists went to these villages in northern Sweden, measuring people and making catalogs and taking pictures of them, describing them as a lower race, as Swedish are. And also in the first half of the 20th century, there was this kind of economy politics, where it was encouraged people to move from these areas. The Tornedalians, Kväänlantalaised, have historically been farmers. They had small farms, and also were early active in forestry, which was difficult to get work in. So many of young people were forced to move to different parts of Sweden. For instance, to the mining areas around Gällivare and Kiruna, but many of them also moved southwards towards the area around the Mälardal and around Stockholm, where they were employed in the growing industry. So they lived there. And then there was also a kind of scholarly idea about so-called semi-lingualism, that that people knowing 2 languages or more languages, they will never speak properly. They will have only this kind of idea of they speak half Swedish or half the other language, so one language has to go. So summa summarum, let's see, if we put this here together, we have these 2 factors, the assimilation politics and the eternal migration. So meänkieli became kind of a second language, and Swedish was promoted. And this led to what we call intergenerational language shift. To explain this really easily is that parents, families stop speaking their heritage language to their children. Often the idea is to give them a better chance in future, to make them proper. This is something that parents don't do this because they're evil. They do it for the best of their children. But when we look at this and this continues, then there is this language shift continues, then there is a situation of language loss. So we might still have, in many situations, elder generations that know the language, but younger generations don't learn it from their families. So, and if this continues, then we can speak about endangered languages and the situation of language loss. So what happened in Sweden, as a consequence, or as a part of when Sweden became member of the European Union, and also in a kind of global way, is that there was something we call a multilingual turn. This has to do with human rights, of course, and also the idea we know a lot more today about multilingualism. So when Sweden became a member of the European Union in 1995, there was also this idea of the European Union as a diverse construct where multilingualism and multiculturalism is lived on a daily basis. So there came the idea of new language policies towards what we might call today social sustainability. So Sweden started a process which led to a law called the Act on National Minorities and National Minority Languages, and basically means that they ratified those 5 languages I told you in the beginning of this talk. So it was meänkieli, Sami, Finnish, Yiddish, and Romani Chib. So, and this Act of Minority Languages says more or less that it's a responsibility of the Swedish state that all the minority languages are to be protected and promoted. So it's not only protection, it's also like looking into the future, they might be promoted. And all national minorities shall be able to maintain and develop their languages and cultures. This is really important, that there is not only like a maintenance, also there's this future that they might develop it. And the authorities have an obligation to inform the national minority languages about their rights and provide them with the opportunity to exert an influence on issues that affect them. So it's not only that the state can come and say, oh, this is good for you. So the minority communities have the right to give feedback, to be heard before something is decided, for instance, about school languages or cultural plannings and so on. And this
Constanze,
yes,
Constanze, it's been 18 minutes now, so could you just still quickly go a bit on the digitalization? We would love to hear just very briefly on that.
Yep. So this act was revised in 2019, especially strengthening the rights of children and youth, which will be really, really important. So just a quick about this. Let's see, there when we come to linguistic sustainability, to give you some ideas about this. So meänkieli in the digital space, we know that it is really important for indigenous and minority communities to build their own spaces with their own ideologies where they can create something together. And when it comes to minority languages, we know also that it is really important that they are used in digital spaces so that they get normalized and visible. Remember, they have been invisible during a very long time. So especially when it comes to digital spaces, social media plays an important role for resistance and revival and community building. So I'm gonna hop over this one here and just give you some quick examples. I've been studying the use of meänkieli on Instagram, and here you can see an example from a posting where the posting is written in Swedish. This is on the left-hand side, the original one. I've been translating into English. But you can see here that many of the young Tornedalians and lantalaiset, they don't know meänkieli yet because they haven't learned it from their families. But they use Instagram and other social media platforms for community building and for learning. So you can see someone is discussing the language loss, but also the importance of the language. And you see in the bottom, there are actually some words in meänkieli, like Tornionlaakso, which means Tornevälli. And even in the comment section, you can see that someone actually uses meänkieli, Fini kuva, there, commenting, this is a nice picture. Or here you can also see, comes to heritage, and another posting, people use, the posting is mainly in Swedish, but the dishes are named in meänkieli. So here this people posting uses veriplätti, which means blood pancakes, but the rest is in Swedish. And just quick, another example where digitization becomes really important for social sustainability. There are two other forms, digital language paths or revitalization groups where people meet. There's meänkieli snappen, where you can have a partner who knows the language and you can train your own meänkieli by the help of Snapchat. And there's also another Facebook group called Kielipati, which actually means language bath, where they meet regularly to train meänkieli on Facebook. But it's not only the community itself, it's also that digital spaces become important from the state side. So to conclude this one, just wanted to show you two examples, and you can check up themselves maybe on the internet. Just, I think 2 weeks ago, the National Library of Sweden launched an app called Bläddra, turning the page, for national minority languages. They digitalized books, so you can download it for free and you can read all the books available in meänkieli and Sami right now, and I think also in Romani Chip for free. I really hope that they will include also the sound so that there will be children will be able to listen to the language and not only read it. And there's also this another library, which is actually a library for children called Polabiblo. And they have like a huge amount of different activities where children can reclaim the language, where they can learn the language, where they can meet other people, but they don't need the language yet to be able to take part of being this Polabiblo community. They can also do it in Swedish and learn in their own pace.
Thank you, Constance. Thank you so much for your really interesting presentation. I think it's really important that we bring up this critical point of views and also this dark heritage that all of our countries have. And so it has not been so easy or even possible to all kinds of cultural groups to present their heritage. And we know the examples with the Sami and with the Roma and so on. So it was very valuable, and I'm sure that your thoughts, Constance, and your presentation also brings a lot of food for thought for the workshop part, which we're going to soon go into. So as we are a bit running out of time and there are no questions in the chat box, I make the decision that we now pause for cup of coffee or tea or water or whatever. And let's come back at 15 minutes past the hour. So I give you a bit more than 5 minutes to get your coffees and whatevers, and do not leave. Stay here. I think it's a wonderful experience to go to the small groups, learn new things, discuss, bring out your thoughts. So stay with us, get your coffees and teas, and see you in 6 minutes. So 15 minutes past the hour. Thank you. And thank you for all the wonderful presentations so far.